Hello and welcome to the first video of that cat developer. Before we start, because this is the first video I have made on this channel, any recommendations, suggestions, or though any opinions you have, feel free to share them in the comments below. This tutorial will show you the basics of Roblox Lua scripting. This is only the first part, which shows you the very basics that you need to be able to write basic scripts and understand the language. So let's get started. In Roblox Studio, there are three types of scripts. Normal scripts that run for every player and make changes that all players see, or server-sided scripts, local scripts that are only seen for every player but only they can see the changes, or a client-sided script. If, for example, a player touches a part, it may become invisible, but only the player that touches the part will see the changes. And the module script. The module script is a type script that runs only once and returns a value, but you probably won't see it when you're making your game. Print is a very important command that can be used from testing to debugging. The print command can be used to log information that the script has inputted into the output. As you can see, the output should be below the screen. If you don't see the output, you can go to view and then click output. To create a script, you can create a part. I'll create a block, for example, and in it press the plus sign and then click script. In the script, there's already a pre-written print hello world, and in the quotes you can put whatever you want. And when we play test the game, you're going to see it prints out hello world. To test out your game, press this little play button here, or if you see something else, go to test and press play here. Then it's going to save it to here, but also launch you in your game. The print command can be used in a lot of cases. For example, if you're making a story game and you need to see if the story has advanced correctly, you can make a print at the end of the script that says everything is working. Or if you need to find a bug that you have in your code, for example, if a value isn't returning the value you want to see. Variables are places in which we store some type of data. For example, when you use some calculator, the first number you typed is saved as a variable, then the operator you chose, and the second number. If we have to translate to Roblox Lua, then it would look like local first number, local second number, local operator. The reason we say it's local, so it can only be coded in the script itself. This is used for the sake of performance. We can combine variables with the command print. So in the existing script we made earlier, make a local variable which you're going to name myFavoriteNumber, and type equals and set the value to whatever your favorite number is. Mine is 17, so I'm going to say 17. Then in the print command, remove the quotes and the hello world message and just type the name of the variable, which in our case is my favorite number. Then if we play test the game, you're going to see that it says 17 in the output console. There are many types of variables, but this is for now this is the number variable, or as we call it, integer. There are other types of variables like booleans or true or false, and string, which is text. As you advance into programming, you'll notice new types that we will not be talking about in this tutorial. You can also set the variable to another value. not where you declare it, somewhere else. So you can say my favorite number is equals to say some random other number like 28. When you play test it, you're going to see that it says 28. But before we continue, I have to tell you a very, very important thing about variables. They do not save across games or over sessions. So if a player has a variable of his favorite number as, for example, 3, it is not going to be saved over the next session. There Variables can be used for a lot of stuff. For example, saving how much XP the player has, or how much coins he has collected, or whatever you feel like you need to save. But before we continue, very important, variables, the value in the variables don't save over games. This is a very important thing to remember during your development of your game. Parts can either have a parent or a child. For example, the part that we added in our game, this one, is a child of workspace. And workspace is the parent of the part. So do you get it? If for example, we're going to put an avatar, my avatar, we're going to put it. And as you can see, as I spawned my avatar, it is a child of workspace because it is in workspace, and workspace is the parent of the child. Also, uh, the script is a child of the part, and the part is a parent of the script. In scripting, we can change the parts properties from our code. To do this, we can either set up a variable with the parts path or call it every time manually. I would recommend using a variable to say the parts path because it saves space in the script. So to start, create a variable of the part. As in this case, I said local part, and set it as game.workspace.part. So basically what we just said is that our part's in the game, then it's in the workspace, and then the part. But the problem with this is that we can just do it in an easier way because the script is a child of our part. So you can just say script.Parent. And as you can see, we have the script. And the part is basically the parent of our script, so we can just call it by using this. We can change the part's transparency to 1. As you can see, it is currently 0, but when we enter the game, it will be invisible. But if we go on and walk over it, you're going to see that it floats you around because it exists. It's just invisible. We can also change other stuff like reflectance. And as you can see, if we enter the game, it is going to become a very reflective part because of the skybox, and you can see how reflective it is. It almost acts as a mirror. But still it is 0 in the script, we just changed it. We can use the fact that we change the parts properties so we can make a lot of games. For example, we can make a fading platform and obbies and bridges that break, or even rainbow flashing lights. There are very big possibilities with this. If statements are used to check if something is true, if we have a variable that is, for example, does the player have a key? And we set it to false at the start of the game, and when he picks up the key, we will change the value to true. And we can run an if statement to see if the player has the key when he tries to unlock a locked door. to use an if statement, make a new variable in our old script that is called local always true, and set it to true, of course. Then type if always true, then print true. What it basically does, it checks if this value is true. For example, it is true because we set it to always true, and then it prints out it's true. If we play our game, you're going to see it says true. What you can also do is else, and then print false. Now what it does is, if it doesn't pass the criteria, or in this case, if always true isn't true, then it will print out false. So let's try it by saying false. And as you can see, it will print out false. There are a lot of how we call it operators that you can use for the if statements. You'll see them in just a second. But technically, just checks if something is true. If statements are something very, very useful. They can be used to check if something has happened, if a player has collected a key, if he has passed a level, if he has enough points to enter another level, if he has bought a game pass, and etc. For loops are essential for any programmer because you could repeat a certain action multiple times or screw to an array of items. To use a for loop, write for, then write I equals, we're going to write it here, write for I equals 1, 10, 1, and do press enter and automatically write and print I. If we enter our game, you're going to see that it types all numbers from 1 to 10. So what it does, the first variable is the start value. 10 is the end value, and this is by how much we increment, aka how much to add on every loop. And then in our loop, it just basically prints the numbers. For loops are extremely useful. You can get a list full of players using a for loop. You can make multiple new parts using a for loop. In game development, you see it quite often. Functions are pieces of code that can be repeated through only one command. To make a function, type function and write the name of it. But now we call it make the part invisible. When you make and in it, you're going to end with a brackets, and then say part.Transparency equals to 1. We're going to remove this, and then we're just going to call our function. That it's that easy, and as you can see, it doesn't exist anymore. It's just gone invisible. So the interesting thing about this is if you need this line of code multiple times, you can just put it below after other. So basically you can repeat it as much as you want without having to copy and paste the whole, because imagine if it's like 10 lines of code and you just copy and paste them. It just becomes boring and tiring and just makes the scripts unnecessary really long. We can also add parameters to our function. You're going so now we're going to say it as transparency size, for example. Yeah, I know it's not the correct term. Transparency size, and in here in the you have to put on the number. As you can see, it says number, so we're going to put it as 1. So we're actually going to put it as 0.5 so I can show you that it works. It's fully visible, but when you enter the game, it's kind of invisible, but not exactly. You can see it, but yeah, you got the idea. Functions can be used for repeating code multiple times without copy and pasting. It can be used to prompt a purchase and then check if it has been purchased and give the item to the player. It can be used in hobbies, and you'll see them a lot of times in game developing. Events are systems that send signals when something happens in the game. For example, touching a part. When an event is fired, it runs code that we made. It can also give parameters, for example, who joins the game. We're going to make an event that prints out what part touched the part we made. To do this, we're going to open our previous script and make a new function called whenTouched. Header parameter that's going to be called otherPart. And in it, you're going to type print at the part was touched by double colon dot and then other part dot name. So what we did here was the parts touched by, we're going to print this. The two dots in a print is used for combining two items, and then other parts dot name, so the part's name. And we're going to remove this. We're going to make an event part when the part is touched, not transparency, touched. When the part is touched, we are going to connect it to our function, which is whenTouched without the brackets. And as you can see, if we enter the game, it says the part was touched by base plate, which is because it genuinely touches the base. But when we touch it, you can see it touches with our parts like right lower leg, humanoid root part, right foot, and so on. So what we just basically did here was the part, an event is touched, which is if it's touched, and then connect it to the to our function whenTouched. What you can also do is make a local function and write this script over here. And as you can see, we just made another in a function basically in the in our in the connect. You can use both cases. It works for both cases. But if you want to use the whenTouched, even I would recommend just making it separate. So just leave it whenTouched like this. Events are extremely useful. They're going to be neat when making UI, so we can check when the player clicks a button. We can also use it to check which player touches the part and check if it's the owner, so we can make a owner door. Instance.new is used to create new objects in the game. We can use it with our previous function and event. So to use it, type new part equals instance.new part. we're going to just put it local and put it on the top, and without the logo actually, and then set the new part dot parent to be equal to workspace. So it can be equal to the workspace. So basically game.workspace. Also, we have to set the new part's size. So new part dot size equals to vector 3 dot new 111. So we made a 1 by 1 by 1 cube. What vector 3 is basically the x, y, and z axis. That's basically what we just did. This is a vector 3. As I said, we have the integers, strings, booleans, but this is more advanced, the vector 3. It is another type of variable, but it is still a variable. And if we enter our game, you're going to see in the workspace that there is a new part. It just doesn't, I don't, it has a position, but we just can't see it from our avatar. But very important thing to note is that all objects need a parent, or else they're not going to be able to be seen or used. Instance.new is going to be used for mainly creating parts, but it could be used to also spawn power-ups or create new parts of a tycoon, for example. For example, you built a wall, and as it spawns the wall, that's how you can do it. Task.wait is used to hold on thread for some time. It counts in seconds. But we're going to use it in our function at the top before when we make the part invisible. So, and here, say that make the part invisible to 0. Then task.wait. And we're going to set it as 3 seconds so you can actually see what happens. And then make the part fully invisible. When we enter the game, you're going to notice that the part is visible, but then it just disappears after 3 seconds. And why do we say task.wait and not just wait, which also works? Yes, it works. But task.wait just makes everything run smoother, and it just makes the game faster. Task.wait can be used before something happening. There are a lot of cases in which this can be used, but it is most commonly used in always. So thank you guys for watching this video. As I said at the start, if you have any suggestions or opinions, share them so I can work on them, and I will see you in the next video. See ya guys!